Our next inductee, Coach Stephen Horodyski. I always feel it is an honor to introduce an inductee with whom I have had the honor to coach against. Coach Horodyski and I coached against each other for about 8 years. He started his coaching career in 1974 at Battle Creek Penfield, went to Battle Creek Central, where 2 other inductees tonight also coached, and then became head coach at Grand Haven in 1989. He has been part of 5 conference championships, been in the state playoffs, and was the MHSFCA Assistant Coach of the Year in 2008. Coach Horodyski retired from coaching in 2010. Coach Horodyski's biggest thrill in coaching: looking across the locker room or huddle and seeing my son. Coaching my 3 sons and walking with them onto the field on a Friday night was my greatest thrill. Coach Horodyski's most humorous incident in coaching: I know I have entertained players and coaches for years, but during one game the opposing team ran a sweep to our sideline. I remember seeing the stadium lights and seeing my shoes above my head and thinking, this is going to hurt. And it did. Coach Horodyski's additional comments: coaching was never a job or a hobby, but a way of life. It shaped our home, our family calendar, our community relations, our friends, our social life, and our careers. It has been a great roller coaster ride. Ladies and gentlemen, the newest member of the Hall of Fame, Coach Stephen Horodyski.
Everybody's way. I'm glad I got off here before Harbaugh came in, so I didn't have to follow him. A couple of maintenance things here for seconds, folks. One thing, there is an over-under. I think the line is at 3:30. My friend John Cullum, who's up here from South Florida, is running the gambling unit, so anybody wants to get in on when I'm going to start sobbing like a baby, now's the time to get that. And Holly, the hook over here, Holly Wilson, is going to make sure she gives me the signal this time to be done. Everybody look to her. Folks, this is a day of thanks. You know, we get to this point in our career and we have so many people that we need to go through and thank. So first of all, let me thank the association and the committee for my selection. And I can't express enough how humbled I was and honored I feel in order to get this selection. And when I get Steve Wilson and Jack Carlson's phone calls, it filled me up. The other thing is that what can make it any better? You know, I'm going with a buddy, Doug Best, and we have a chance to go in together. So it's a tremendous thing, and I say it and I say it clearly. I've been blessed, probably in more ways than I deserve. I need my family to stand up for a second so you can at least take a peek at them, and then I'll tell you about them. So, my family, all of them. Thanks. Thank you's got to start there. And I certainly have to start with my family and my wife, Ann Catherine. You know, like most coaches, I married up. There's no doubt about it. And like most of our wives, you know, Ann is so much tougher than her exterior shows. And when we were setting up the elementary flag football program and the elementary reading program and anything that we had to do out in the school system, she always ended up being my key consultant and my assistant coach. But more importantly, along the way was her Hall of Fame patience and counseling and understanding, her business sense and parenting skills. You get the picture. I wasn't around much and she was hauling the load. And the fact that she still loved me. Even after all the years she did without. And my buddy Dave Hudson, sitting out there, is going to attest to the fact that my 3 sons got their athletic skills from her side of the family tree, as the athletic fruit on my side is rather barren. But after 4 family moves, she still had the strength and the patience and the skill to be able to collect all those Friday night fan suggestions and file them away for me. You know, everybody deserves that one great love, and she's certainly mine. Next, I have my oldest son, Eric, and his wife, Tracy, and their boys, Grant, 10, and Lance, 7. Now, one of those boys is going to be President of the United States, and the other one's going to be President of the Teamsters. My middle son, Matthew, and his wife, Leah, and they have their beautiful daughter, Riley, and she's our prima ballerina. And right now, she's spending a lot of time teaching her father and her pop how to do ballet. That's quite a picture. And then my younger son, Joe, and his wife, Lynn. And they have a 3-year-old son, Dylan, and a daughter, Kaya, who's 6 months. Now, Kaya is our Polish princess, and Dylan is our version of Magic Mike. Yeah, like all the Horodyski boys, there's just some thrill about taking their clothes off. But I used to say that my greatest joy, as you heard on the write-up, my greatest joy was coaching my sons. But you get to watch them as athletes, and you get to watch them grow up around you. And when you're at practice, they're jumping on the dummies and running around, and sometimes splitting their heads open and things like that. But right now, watching them as fathers, and the way that they and our daughters-in-law are working to raise our grandchildren, now that's a joy. And since we're here, I got to say thank you to all the people that were their teachers, and the coaches that are here from Grand Haven that were their coaches and did the hand-on stuff. You did a great job, especially Mom. Now, I know there's a lot of Hall of Fame coaches out there, and this fraternity, that are thanking me right now because I've improved their one-loss record. But there are some Hall of Fame coaches that I need to mention because I've worked with them and for them over the years. First of all, Hall of Famers Bob Horodyski and Dave Hudson, and a guy who's just an honorable mention Hall of Famer, but he's my Hall of Famer, Kenny Woodside out of Penfield High School. And then Hall of Famer Dick Stevens, who's our mentor, and really his Hall of Fame staff, as you've heard, Al Slammer and Dick Bush and Doug Bess, all at Battle Creek Central. And then Hall of Famer Carl Treitler, who was already at Grand Haven calling great defenses. And then at Fruitport, 2 Hall of Famers. That helped heal my heart. Steve Wilson and Larry Reeder. This is a unique fraternity that we get into. It's getting tougher and tougher. But how and when we join it is as different as we are. And in May 1968, Hollywood, Florida, was the end of my sophomore year in high school. And I just finished spring practice for the Bay City St. James legend, Vince the Pony. And I was hooked. I wanted to coach, I wanted to teach, and it never wavered. My coach is up here. Coach. We promised that we wouldn't tell stories, didn't we, Coach? All right. We start out competing against each other, and we compete so hard, but over time, if they give you time anymore, but over time, you learn to admire and respect your competition. And if you get lucky, you become friends with them. Here's some people that were my competition that I learned to admire. Lynn Stickford and Mike Brown, and Phil Patton, Jim Moses and Dick Saltrick, Doug Kay and Ken Rose, Doug Troop and Doug Coe, Bill Jarmo and Jimmy Sutton, Dave Durham, Leroy Rosencrantz, John Shillito, Steve Wilson, and Larry Rieger. I want to say thanks to my good friends, John Shears and Ken Ranta and Tracy Wilson. Your support and loyalty could not be overstated. And thanks to our friends, Ron and Judy Winter, Brent Boink, Kate Beecham and Dan Edwards, Larry Barber and Ed Suchecki. A special thanks to Coach Bob and Speederino. And lastly, I want to thank the Grand Haven coaches and their wives and their family. The Grand Haven coaches, stand up for a second. Come on, get up here. I don't know if I helped them coach very much, but I know I kept them entertained with my stories. And a couple of them were even true. What a great group of human beings. I am so proud and so grateful that they coached my sons. Our philosophy was simple. Coach them like they were your own. And in most cases they were. So I want to say thanks to Dale Henshaw and Gary Ramsden and Andy Massot and Jimmy Albright and Jason Durham, Randy Poole and Colin Peterson and Dennis Striegel, Matt Schmidt. I can't say anything, Matt. Floyd Fonte, Louis Kuhn, Dirk Osteen, Tom DeKuyper, Kent Suchecki, Carl Treitler, Joe Nelson, and Jeff Boovey, and certainly their wives. And I have to say this, while this seems like a father-son thing, Jeff Boovey's daughters were unbelievably valuable. And I want to thank Ellen and Becca for all the things that they contributed to our teams over the years. Folks, not only are these guys great men that make players better and make them better people, but working with these men for 17 years made me a better person. I want to thank Stan and Betty for all that they did to make this all possible. As you can see, I have been blessed. I want to thank you, and I want to congratulate all the other members for their induction tonight. Thank you.